What's up, everybody? This is Andy Morales, and welcome to the Jam Sessions Live podcast episode number 7. My guest today is my good friend, Robin Leora. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, what's going on? What have you been up to these days? I know you're doing the whole lives thing. So what's going
Yes.
on? Talk to us.
Yeah, the Instagram lives. Yes, I am still there, still reading people's wonderful, incredible, beautiful poetry. Um, just trying to hit it hard and make sure that my writing stays current, and I continue to work and progress in that avenue as well. So, just trying to further expand my creativity.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So, I guess my first question is, how did this all start for you as far as the Instagram community page thing? Like, how did that all start?
Yeah, it's been such an interesting journey. This July I'll be coming up on 2 years in the writing Instagram community. So that's kind of crazy. Um, but I've always written, but I always did it very secretly, quietly. I journaled. I never really shared my writings. My sister was actually always the writer in the family. I was the pianist, and but she loved poetry. So I kept my poetry very, very quiet and allowed her to dive into that world. But as I got older, and my life journey, different traumas, past relationships, it was just a way for me to express myself, to be comfortable, to vent, to rant, to heal. And so I always say, writing is my way of putting all my pain through my pen onto my paper. And so one day, I just basically a couple years ago, I reached out to my family and said that I really wanted to take this journey a little bit more seriously and just really dive in and see what I can do with it. Of course, they all love my writings, and I said, but yeah, at the same time, your family, I know how biased family is. So,
Right.
what would you guys think if I started like an Instagram profile page just strictly for my writing, and put some feelers out there and see how well it's received, if people like my stuff or if not? And they were in complete full support of it, and it probably took about five months in to where I was starting to get a little bit of recognition. I think about 4 months in was the first time that one of my pieces was read on a live. I didn't even know lives existed. Like, this was a whole world that I was completely unaware of. And it was a whirlwind, just complete whirlwind. And then in November, I did I think that was what, 2019, November of 2019, I did my first live. And that was scary, terrifying. At the same time, it just the fact that, my words and my story reached so many was completely humbling and mind blowing. The acceptance, just everyone just reaching out in DMs, stating how my story, touched them, and that now they have a little bit of confidence to maybe write about their pain. And from there, it's really transitioned. Initially it was more about me just trying to see if people liked what I had to say, and now it's transitioned into, I feel like more of like a supportive staple within the community, to where a lot of people will reach out to me, and maybe they're not comfortable reading their words themselves, but they seem to enjoy allowing me to be that part of their journey. And I absolutely love reading people's words. It definitely is very fulfilling for me, for sure.
Wow, that's a, no, and you know what, and that's such a beautiful thing, and it's interesting because when I first started writing poems, as far as like in the Instagram community, I didn't even know, and like just like yourself, I didn't even know this even existed
Yeah,
until Poets Anonymous came
yeah,
to my life, I guess you can say,
yep,
and it was to
exactly.
Zillion poetry, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like I got tagged in this thing, and it was him and Sarah. I still have the video to this very day because this is before you couldn't save your lives, you couldn't do all that
Oh,
stuff.
yes. Yeah.
So I would take like another device that I had and I would just record it. And I still have it to this very day. 'Cause I like to look back and be like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, Lord, this is your favor over my life. And this is why we're doing what we're doing, having this conversation. And it's
Absolutely.
everything you said was just so spot on because that's why I decided to just go forward with this podcast because just like yourself, I wanted
Mm-hmm.
people to tell their stories. And like you said, not everybody feels comfortable. And I
Yes.
feel like, hey, maybe what we're doing is inspiring others. Like, you know what? I want to write my story. I love this person and all this other stuff because they
Yes.
hear what this conversation. And there's a lot of stories. And I've said this to everybody I've reached out to, say, hey, be a guest and all this stuff. There's a lot of stories that need to be told. And they're not
Absolutely.
being told because one, there's the fear. Two, there's no opportunity given to them to tell the story. And three, I just believe, you know what? I know what it was like to not be able to tell my story. And the fact is, what I would want somebody have done for me, I want to be that light. I don't want to be the only person. Rather, I want to be
Right.
the start of something where it'll inspire somebody else to do the same thing, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, if it was, if it's one person I can really thank for all this was Joe Steele because
Yeah,
Joe
for
Steele is the
sure.
one that inspired me to do the podcast. I was just coming up with just some ideas because my brother was like, "Hey, you should do this, you should do that."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we were doing our thing with the what was it, jammed them down, and then
Jam them
things
down. Yes.
and things live, and it was just like I was testing it out with Our Lives, which season one is still available,
Yes.
and it just so many things and I know Joe was working on his like hey I want to do it too so when we both had that conversation like
Yeah.
we both just decided what bro just go for it and
Yeah.
he's doing his thing
That's
and I'm doing
amazing.
my thing with Jandom Sessions Live and it's just it's just so beautiful that something so little I guess you can say and
Mm-hmm.
not stupid way something so uniquely little that a lot of people didn't know but now it's expanding and it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
There really is such thing as a sense of community because you hear the nightmares
Oh,
with
yes.
social media catfish and it's like we're
Oh, yes.
proving that social media is not always like that. There really truly is a thing and I guess you could say we could thank Instagram for that too.
Yeah. It's
It's
just
beautiful.
it is. It's just I mean, people will ask me and they're like, so you have like you post your poetry on Instagram? I said, yeah, but it's a little bit more than that, and then I find myself like listening. I was like, oh well, I do lives, weekly lives, and I read people's poetry. And it just sounds so interesting. It just sounds so
Yes.
bizarre, like it's just like what you read people's poetry. It's like yes, it's a thing, I mean it. And the community has grown so incredibly. I mean there are so many other poetry readings and poetry lives. I mean I can't keep up with all of them. I mean the community is absolutely huge. And I'm just grateful that people entrust me with their words because we are vulnerable. These our pieces are parts of us. It's us sharing and allowing them a glimpse of in my mind a glimpse of their soul, a glimpse of their psyche. And it's very personal. A lot of it's very private, and that's difficult. That is so hard to put out there and then accept whatever critique comes your way, whether it's positive or negative. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And for people to be able to, hey, check this out. I would love it if you read this, or, and whatnot. Or when I do read someone and they come back with such an incredible praise and gratitude, it's so humbling. And I mean, if there's just one way that I can touch someone's life or reach out to them in a positive and moving forward, evolved way, then absolutely, then I feel as though I'm on the right path for myself.
Amen. Amen. No, and
Mhm.
again, that's such a beautiful thing, and oh man, it inspires, and that's what I love about that. The fact that we could read somebody's piece, and then it's like, wow, you know what? That inspired me so much that I want to write a piece that was inspired by this. And I've written many pieces that were actually
Mhm.
inspired by other people's pieces, and it's one thing I love about this community, and I'll say this, that with the poetry community on Instagram it expands your mind, right? Because it gives you a perspective that you probably never saw before, and it makes you wonder, like, wow, yeah, I've never experienced this before, but the fact that this person, I'll give you an example. Adriana was one of
Yes.
them.
Mhm.
A Guerrera, I forget the handle name. I'm sorry, Adriana, for listening to this, but she's she's one of those people that like she is not afraid to be herself. Like she'll talk about her struggles, and you
Absolutely.
want to talk about whether it's anxiety or mental illness and all this other stuff. She is the definition of being raw, being real, and you don't see a
Mm.
lot of that, and that takes a lot. And it's funny because I remember in the
Yeah, I
past when
was
I
I
first
was
met
going to
her.
say, yeah, she's raw beauty. That's exactly, you hit it spot on.
Yes,
Yeah. Mhm.
yes, it's so beautiful, and it's people like her that makes me still want to be on this community. Because let's be honest, even though there's the good, there's always the bad. There's always the stupidity that
Of
happens that a lot of
course.
people don't want to talk about, which is whatever. And it's just I remember when Natalie Serna used to do her lives, and she was always in the comments, and then me and her became friends. And it's
Mhm.
interesting. And I remember when Brian was doing the open mic live. I think it was his like second
Yeah.
time doing it. It's called a sound
Mhm.
check. It was
Yes,
called.
the sound check with
Yo,
Brian Edwards live.
it's the Brian Edwards,
Mhm.
and it's so interesting because I said, "Yo, but Adriana, you should do it." She was like, "No, I don't know. I don't think anyone wants to hear it." No, and I remember telling her, "No, you can," and just her telling me later on that I I did something to push her to start doing, because no, she's doing lives now. She's doing,
I know.
you know,
She's really
spoken
stepped out
word.
of her comfort zone.
Yes, and then the
Yeah,
fact is, like when she told me all this, I'm like, oh, I'm proud of this girl, and it's stuff like that,
absolutely.
the relationship that you build, So it's such a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. So in saying all that,
Absolutely.
so this is a tough question I'm going to ask, only because
Okay.
I know you and I have had this conversation, and I've had this conversation with other
Mhm.
poets, and let's be honest, maybe this is certain topics we don't talk about because it's just what it is, and maybe this could break the ice. So I know with you in particular, you have had situations in this community as well.
Mhm.
People you don't know, where like they'll judge you because A, B, C, or D. Like for example, like when you go live and they get on you because you look a certain way or you dress a certain way, and oh well, you're a mother and you're this. Like how do you respond to stuff like that? And how does that make you feel?
It was,
Despite this,
yes.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, no, you're all good. It was very unexpected. I do have to say. It was very unexpected when it first came my way. My page, my profile, Leora's dot, beautiful dot chaos poet dot poetry on Instagram. I utilize all avenues of my creativity. I have my music on there because I am a pianist, and so I have a couple of posts of my playing. I also love photography. And so when I came into it and really saw that so many people use visuals, um, I was utilizing photography way back in the day, also in regards to a healing process, along my journey. And so I thought, wow, that would be amazing if I could implement all these things together. And so on my page, on all of my posts, I use my own photography. So I do not do a Google search. There are so many incredible artists out there, but it was just a way for me to be able to add a little bit more flair, a little bit more understanding, graphicness to my words. And so it really does encompass all my art. It's not just my poetry, but it's everything. I was unprepared for the backlash that came my way. Um, Obviously, I'm very free with my body, and there were several. people who just find offense to that. And not everyone's going to like my words. Not everyone's going to like my art, and that's okay. I mean, we are unique individuals, as we all should be. Otherwise, the world would be an extremely boring place. But for people to reach out so aggressively, so harshly, in their verbal attacks towards me presenting my body in the way that I do on my page, really did take me aback. They did attack me as a mother. They attacked me as a woman, rather than in support and stating, yes, own it. Own that trauma. And wow, that picture along with that was incredible. Or yes, own your sexuality, embrace that, praise that. Let's celebrate that. Instead, there were a few, and when I say a few, 95% of the Instagram community is very, very supportive, and there's only about 5% that isn't. And I've always said, if
Right,
you don't like my work, if you don't like my page, you can move along. It's okay. you know.
right,
But there are a lot of individuals out there that feel as though they need to state whether it be disgust, or even, on the opposite spectrum, some people viewing that as an invitation for them to mm, go a little bit beyond the boundaries that I certainly didn't ask for. We get those nice little
right, right,
unfortunate, unwelcome DMs in there that are a tad bit aggressive, sexually. And I think just, in being within the community more and more, and reaching out and talking to others, it's really thickened my skin. But, hey, if I'm going to put myself out there on the social media spectrum, I have to be able to, I guess, weather the storm, so to speak. I have to be able
right, right.
to. It's freedom. We're all on these platforms expressing ourselves freely. Well, they're just reacting and expressing themselves freely. And in the end, that's just when you say, well, thank you for your words, and if it's not supportive, I'm going to have to block you now. But thank you for that.
Right. Right. No, it makes sense. And it's interesting too because, I've had other poets, and other people who, have been through the same thing as
Hmm.
you have when it comes to that.
Hmm.
And, my whole thing is, like you said, you don't like it, oh well, like tough shit, whatever. But I think with the issue with society or civilization, I guess as we could call it,
Hmm.
a lot of us have been conditioned to be a certain way, to act a certain way, and to be portrayed a certain way, right?
Yes.
Because depends on what cultural background you come from. Let's be like for example, like my dad was like that. Like he didn't believe, like God rest his soul, but my father did not believe that women had a place
Hmm.
in work.
Hmm.
He believed that woman needs to stay home and cook, clean, and and
Yeah.
and maintain the house while the husband just provides and,
Hmm.
and be the man of the house, or the whole king of the castle type thing.
Hmm.
In Spanish, we call it machista,
Yeah.
like macho, like that's just
Right.
how it was. I'm the very exact opposite of that.
Hmm.
Like just because I'm the man doesn't make me any superior than you or whatever the case is. And it's just, someone like him, like he would have found some of that stuff offensive, but that's just the mentality.
Hmm.
So with all that being said, again, we've been conditioned for so many years, and I think and it took me because I'm listening to what you're saying, and if we can go really way before our time, this took me back to the conversation, the live that we did with Tony Trigilio,
Yes.
because we touched on that exact topic, and at least Cowan was
Yeah.
definitely a perfect example of where she just wanted to be herself, and due to the cultural background that she's from, she wasn't
Right.
even allowed to be that way. And just like you said, you know um not just like you said, but like basically just how you were touching on this particular
Hmm.
topic, she had to do all these things behind closed doors. But
Right.
what happens, like what happens once I think about like a closet,
Hmm.
right? When you hide in the closet
Hmm.
and you declutter that closet. But sometimes what happens is you accidentally, when you get distracted, you put the same certain things back in the closet and you didn't realize you put that there.
Hmm.
Oh wait, I didn't touch that. that. Oh, snap, right? But then what happens when the closet's too full and you can't put no more things in that closet? It's gonna break. It's gonna burst, right?
Absolutely.
And and unfortunately, with Lee's Cowan,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah,
destroyed her.
that was such a
And it's
powerful, yeah, a
crazy.
powerful, powerful story, a powerful history of a woman that was really trying to, break the barriers. Elise Cowan, she was an incredible artist, incredible poet, in a time that females were hugely suppressed, and her bravery is just unfathomable. I mean, it's incredible. It's beautiful. Her story is unfortunately tragically sad, but she continued to try and step beyond the limitations and titles that were placed upon females, and and gender in general. Um, it's huge inspiration. Her story is an absolute huge, huge inspiration. And I also think as we move forward that people have become very, very comfortable in behind the screen. Social media is a
Right.
completely different realm than I don't think any of us could have ever even imagined. So the comfortability that people have in voicing their dislike or the freedoms that they feel that they have is is huge, and it has changed. I really do feel it. It has really it's just it's a difficult task. I mean, if you're going to be out there on the Instagram world and putting your words and putting your soul and putting your, all your vulnerability out there, it's not easy. It is not easy. You need to be prepared that people are very, very free to express themselves one way or the other, whether it's in support or against. And
Right.
so yeah, so it's a lot of conditioning, a lot of learning how to respond to toxic people, learning. It actually made me kind of cement myself in my womanhood, to be honest. Um, I was raised to, kind of like what you're saying. I was raised in a home where women were a little bit quieter. We were a little bit quieter. I was raised in more of a servitude type of mentality. And so for me to step apart from that and really find my individuality was a huge growth and a huge process. At the same time, there were a lot of attacks, a lot of hesitation. There, I didn't always have support in that growth and in that change. And so it has been an incredible journey. Um, but I am grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to where I can voice myself in the way that I have been able to do. So it's you definitely have to find that balance. The balance is difficult.
No, I definitely, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. And everything you said kind of just hit home for me because even though oh, excuse me,
Mhm.
even though I didn't go through that exactly like how you did,
Mhm.
but everything you just said was spot on, hit me home. I'll tell you why, because when I was growing up, I'm the youngest of three kids. And, my brother and my sister, they were 5 to 6 years
Mhm.
difference than I am.
Mhm.
So my brother must 1 year difference. So there was no way for me to really relate to them because I was just very young.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because the whole conditioning and finding the individuality, like that hit me hard just now because that's exactly the struggle, right? Because for me, I never knew who I was,
Yeah.
even as I was growing up into my adulthood where there were so many things that were not explained to me because I was sheltered
Mhm.
and I had to kind of like throw myself kind of like there's the shield, like the glass ceiling, and I had to break through.
Mhm.
But the problem with me breaking through that glass ceiling was that once I broke through the glass ceiling, okay, what do I do now? Because I didn't have guidance, I didn't have any of that stuff because I was told basically, and excuse my language because I want to curse on here, it's my
Yeah,
show,
your
whatever,
show.
but yes, my show.
Yeah.
So, so So basically, I was told like, shut the fuck up,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
sit down, shut up, do what you got to do, and that's it. Just do what you're told, kind of
Mhm.
thing. And I was kind of the opposite of that because I didn't want to just listen to what you said because not everything you said was correct.
Mhm.
And I had a broken home. You know, my father and my sister did not talk for 9 years because of something my sister did that he
Mhm.
just disagreed with.
Yeah.
It tore us
Yeah.
apart. My dad was depressed for most of my life because once my grandmother died, his mom,
Mhm.
when I was 10 years old, I didn't understand. You know, my father was an
Yeah.
alcoholic, like, and certain things from everybody in that household I've inherited, I guess you can say, where when I got old enough and yeah, I started to work and I started to have money in my hands. So yeah,
Mhm.
I had friends drunk just because I said,
Right.
all right, yeah, you know what, let's get drunk because you're getting drunk. But I didn't know that that was going to affect me in a way that, I could have almost lost my life. I don't know how many
Yeah.
times, and it's
Yeah.
nobody sat down with
Yeah.
me and really explained things to me. And you know what's crazy about that? And I was talking to my wife about it. One of the issues I have with the older generation, I don't know if this is every culture. I know with the Hispanic culture in particular,
Mhm.
there's this thing like they don't give back. And what I mean by that is they don't how do I explain this? Like they don't sit down with us and give us that advice. Like
Mm.
they expect us to know what they're talking
Mhm.
about and that's it.
Mhm.
And it messes us up in the long run because you're talking about okay, save money, stop wasting your money around, but you're not showing us the strategy
Mhm.
or you're not telling us or showing or demonstrating what that looks like. And there's so many things you could have taught us that could
Right.
have saved us a lot of trouble in certain areas in our lives.
Mhm.
And that's the problem with, at least in the Hispanic culture, that's one thing they're very known for. They don't give back to anybody younger. And it's sometimes hard to get through to them because one thing I was telling my wife about actually earlier today was that the way we can talk about what like you and myself right now, we're having this great
Mhm.
conversation, deep conversation. We can't have conversations like that with our
Mm.
parents. And
Interesting.
one point we made, right, was that, because I'm watching this show called A Million Little Things. It's such a great
Mhm.
show, right? So one thing that I found interesting is that how kids today have it so much easier than I did, right? Because the kids today, their parents are my age range,
Mm.
literally.
Mhm.
The parents know what it's like to go through what I've been through because their parents were like old enough to be my parents, right? But the thing with that is that we've tried so hard to be different from them
Mhm.
that we're being lenient with our kids. And then it's like, okay, and now it's getting to that point where kids today think they're entitled to whatever because, oh, this is what it is and that's it.
Mm.
But yet we're not taking that time to explain because unfortunately, oh, I'm not going to be like my parents.
Mhm.
But there's certain things like I'm starting to understand it now because my son's 2 years
Right.
old. Like some things I agree with everything, no, but there's certain things I'm like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Well, and
But
the journey
but
to
the problem, yeah,
self-discovery, the journey to self-discovery is constant and it's always ongoing. And it's just yeah, I mean, obviously our upbringing and our backgrounds are indeed what help shape and form us, but to break apart, when that moment happens to where you start to say and ask yourself, well, who am I going to be and what do I look like? And what path am I really going to take? In growing up in a, in a very, religious, very religious focused and strict background. I got married at 16, and being married at 16, I just automatically felt that I was going along the lines of fulfilling my role. This is just the natural progression of where I'm supposed to go. I have this person, I love this person, I want to be with this person, so this is the person I'm choosing. And so at 16, I was allowed to marry. We were married for 5 years, and unfortunately, that it did not work, and there were many, many layers and layers and layers of complications within that. And then, but once we were no longer together, I still did not know who I was, and that's a very terrifying and scary thing. And so I jumped right into another relationship, and going through all of that, I homeschooled my three older children, and that was something that I really had to fight for, that I really had to stand up for. It was something that I was passionate about, but I didn't always have like the fullest support. But I always knew that if I could not educate my children and give them the level of knowledge that they needed to be successful in the world, in college, and in future, endeavors, then I wasn't going to do it. That was an agreement that I had with myself. It was a beautiful time. I have no regrets in doing so. My children's relationships with each other are absolutely beautiful, and I couldn't be happier. They really, they are each other's rock. They are each other's best friends, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And I don't know if we would have been able to create that. I would like to think, just because we are who we are, that they would still have have that. But I also like to think that my decision in homeschooling helped shape and form that as well. And but that was that was a huge thing for me, to be able to speak out and say, no, this is what I want, regardless of what you are saying. I'm going to stand upon my word and my belief, and I'm going to do this. And that was really hard. I struggled, I struggled. I felt like I was always defending myself. And that was just like step one. Now that the kids are older, I, I felt very lost. I was just like, what am I supposed to do now? What is my purpose, right? Isn't that always what we're asking ourselves? Where's our fulfillment? Where is our
Yes.
purpose? What do we do from here? How, and it was just, it felt so spiraling. I was just like, I have no fucking idea what I'm going to do. I have no clue. It felt hollow. I felt alone. And I think that's when I really started writing. I really started diving deep. And yet, a lot of my pieces are pretty dark. Yes, they are. I don't hold back. I really want you to, when you read my words, see, feel, hear me. I want all of that. And once I started to be able to do that and to purge all of that out, I started to change. I started to get stronger. I started to have a little bit more empowerment. I started to really see the woman, even though I'm in my 40s, but I
And nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah.
Hey.
I just started finally seeing, wow, this is who I really, yes, who I want to be. And I started for the first time to be proud of myself, to be accepting of myself. And that was huge, huge.
That is amazing to hear that, because as you're saying that, I was thinking about a lot of things that came to my mind, and I'll say this, the only time I can honestly say that I'm now learning who I am as a person is when I married my wife.
Mm-hmm.
No jokes aside, I've been best friends with her for about almost 12 years
Mm-hmm.
now. We've been married for almost 3 years
Mm-hmm.
now, and it's just I like just being with my wife, I've learned who I am
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
right? It's because of her that I'm more confident in myself. Like honestly, she was the one that said, "Come on, babe, just push through it. Like just go for it. Like what's the worst that can happen?
Absolutely.
Nothing."
As
Like
relationships should be.
and
Relationships should be on a level to where it's a bonus. You're complementing each other. It's not a necessity. It shouldn't be a need, and it shouldn't be a dependence. It has to be an equal an equal coming together, to where you are the one encouraging the other to grow and to become that person that we ultimately see. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing in relationships. And not everyone gets to have
it
it.
is.
Not everyone gets to grasp that, or hold on to it, or even get a glimpse or see what that's like. And so that is a massive, incredible blessing that you guys are able to have that together. That's beautiful.
No, amen, amen. And it's crazy too, because again, like you're saying all this, and it's reminding me of so many things, right? Because this is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Because again, I want us all, not just me, I want all of us to be more exposed, where we could all together break this barrier of condition, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like this is condition, we're gonna break that ceiling now because there are people who don't, like you said, that don't even get to do this because of the
Right.
situations. You go to China and they can't even believe in Jesus
Mm-hmm.
Christ. Like they have to have these secret tunnels of churches and worship God that way because you got a Bible in your hand on the street that's it, you're getting killed,
Yeah.
and it sucks.
Mm.
We can't, but yeah, I feel like our civilization, like American and stuff like that, we take those things so for granted that we don't see the other spectrum of things,
Absolutely.
right? And
For
and it's
first world
interesting.
problems, right? I mean the little things
Yeah,
that we always take for granted are those little intricacies, those small things. And one thing I know this whole past year for everyone has been very, very difficult. I'd like to believe and I'd like to think that it has really brought us back to the root of the idea of finding what ultimately is important. And to be honest, the core of growing and moving forward, I believe, is having an accepting heart, a forgiving heart, a loving heart, and empathy. Empathy is also huge. I'm a huge empath, um, but it's not always easy. It's not always easy to do those things, and I continue to strive to that's my goal. That is my focus. That is where I wish to live. And this past year, if anything, family units. I know for myself, the family units have grown stronger. We really had to rely on each other. There wasn't a lot of being able to just like, hey, let's get a group of people together and let's go here or do that. I mean, it was very isolating, and you really, really found out who was in your circle.
yes. Oh my God. I was taught, like when I was doing the first episode back, with the season of this show, of
Hmm.
course, and my first guest was Robert Kazi. And one thing we spoke about, he said that this was very a pivotal year, this whole year for writers. And I
Mm.
definitely agree with that because I know for me personally, that whole year, with the virus and all this other stuff going on, I can honestly say mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, I've learned so much about myself last year to
Yes,
now. This whole year, basically, I've learned more about myself than I've learned in my entire life. And it's crazy
100%.
because how something
Totally
like
agree. Absolutely.
because how something like that, so something that started so small that could have been prevented, I feel like God allowed it to happen because there's a lot of true colors that came out last year, even this year.
Hmm.
And I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just speaking the truth. You know, I've always had this thing because I know you talked about the whole
Yeah.
religion thing. One thing I've always had an issue with was mega churches. I'm not
Mm.
saying all of
Hmm.
them, but a lot of
Hmm.
them, it's like that. And all of a sudden, these things are being exposed. The Bible says, what was in the dark will be shined to the
Mm.
light. I
Hmm.
probably quote that verse I'm talking about, and it's so true. Whatever's behind closed doors is eventually going to be exposed.
I
You see
also
this thing with
think,
Paul
yeah, and
Lynch.
I think it was a huge eye opener, to be honest, just for our nation in general, just to see how we are
Yes.
very divided. We are divided. We are very
Hmm.
divided. We have many privileges. We have many, many incredible, incredible blessings here. In the United States as an American citizen, and we do take them for granted. But boy, what we've seen in this past year is definitely proven that, that we are a very divided nation, and that there needs to be massive heart change. Oh my God, us as human, the
Yes.
humanism is becoming so, it's, I could see it, like the different changes that was happening. And whether you believe in God, whether you believe, Buddha, whatever, I mean, so many different religions, that we have, but it's spiritualism, and it is indeed a way to I can't quite grasp what I'm trying to express, but it was just very, very shocking. It was very shocking. It was very sad, to see. our nation crumble and in some parts rise above, but just to see those struggles. And there's so many things that, that we all need to work on every day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just been crazy, whether, the whole Black Lives Matter
Mm-hmm.
thing or anything else for that matter. And what I was saying before was, again, like when the whole Carl Lentz thing came out, the whole Ravi
Mm-hmm.
Zacharias came out, and I remember a year before, there was the pastor Jared Wilson who completed
Mm.
suicide. It just comes to show, like, not
Yeah.
everything. I'm not bashing. I'm just making a
Yes.
point that not everything is what it appears to be. This is why we have to be conscious about what we're looking at. We have to be more discerned, and we have to really take into account, just like them, just like us, we are
Mm-hmm.
human. And I was thinking, because while you're saying all you're saying, and I was thinking about something you said about how sometimes people don't get to, tell the
Mm-hmm.
story. And one thing that came to mind was Tina Turner. And I'm going to tell
Mm-hmm.
you why. Because she has a story that, when she went through the whole divorce and she said, I didn't want this, I just want to keep my name. That's it. And she started to raise to fame as a solo
Mm-hmm.
artist. And yeah, her past did come out. It came out. It came, it got brought up. They brought up her
Yeah.
past and the fact that she decided, all right, I'm gonna tell my story. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about, she did a movie about
Yeah.
her. Now there's a documentary coming out about her, and it just comes to show how. And something that I saw in the trailer that was interesting, how your worst moments could be an inspiration for somebody else, and
Mm-hmm.
I really believe in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that's just
And
something
it's
that's beautiful. That I've been able to have that opportunity of receiving it, through writing and through the Instagram community, and also where people have reached out and have stated, that I've been able to give that to them. I mean, it's just incredible. And we have the power, we have the ability to really be impactful. And, even if it's just one word at a time, we have, we have that strength. We have that opportunity to really make an impact. And it doesn't have to be a massive impact. It doesn't have to be an impact that shakes the world. I mean, I feel pretty blessed just in, the small impacts, which I say small because there's not a huge rippling effect, but at the same time, you know, it can be very large for one individual person.
Yes, amen. And now, with that being said, I wanted to, so this is what I want to
Hmm.
ask you, because again, you're saying this, and it's so many things are coming to mind. I'm a kind of person that I'm all about leaving something
Mm,
behind. Like when I'm
mm-hmm,
gone, I want people like I there's so many things I want people to remember me by,
mm-hmm,
kind of thing. So my question is, how important is that for you, in a sense where how important is leaving behind a legacy in such profound ways? How important is that for you? And how important is the impact for you to leave behind that legacy? I don't
mm-hmm.
know if that makes sense what I'm saying, but like how important
I
is
guess I
that
would
to
have
you?
to say in reference to that, my world is small. My world is small in the effect that my children are my number one priority. So in regards to legacy, I am in constant thought and think about continually my actions and how they will affect my children. Um, I fully believe that we teach people how to treat us, and that's a very scary and also a very bold statement, but I think it's very, very true. And so I want to make sure that the way that I'm behaving, that I'm getting everything put back towards me in relationships that is positive. And so I want my children to see how I respond to a certain situation. I want them to see that I step out of my comfort zone. I want them to see that I had to figure out my own spiritual walk by myself, solo. That is an individual journey. Yes, of course we can lean on others for support and whatnot, but ultimately our journey is our own. And so my legacy, I feel, is directly represented within my children. And so as far as anything bigger out into the world, if there ever is a book published, I mean, yes, I have some pieces published. I have several I have three pieces published in an invitational anthology that was through Ink Gladiators Press. I have two erotica pieces, poems published in a novel. I have a short story published online. These were all things that I was just stepping beyond what I never could have imagined. And so, if there's any legacy to leave, it's to show my children always just don't hold back. Just, it's scary. It's scary to be
Wow.
brave. It's terrifying to be brave. I still can't play the piano on a live. I can record it and post it, but I still can't play live. That is something that I wish to be able to step beyond. So there's always growth, there's always learning, there's always reaching beyond and beyond. And so if that's the legacy I leave, then it doesn't, for me, I don't have to reach beyond just my small circle, because that will in itself, we talked about the rippling effect. I mentioned that just a moment ago, but that will ripple through generations. So it's all how
Amen.
I handle myself and show my children just how strong I can be. And that's hugely important.
No, and that's true, and that's such a beautiful thing. And I wanted to ask you too now, where like what were like when it comes to your
Hmm.
pieces, where did your inspiration
Mm,
come from? I know you talked about past
hmm.
traumas and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Um, if you don't have
Yeah.
to answer if you don't want to, I guess my question is, can you give us an example of a trauma that, let's say, if you
Hmm.
talked about it, how did that make somebody else feel in the sense where, how did that make that person like, oh, wow, thank you for that story
Mm,
type thing? I know you've done lives too where you addressed it, certain situations, and that alone made people want to join your live type. So, with that
hmm.
being said, I guess my question is, like, can you, or again,
Yeah.
you don't have to if you don't want to, do you have a trauma that you want to maybe talk about that maybe you felt like, damn, I don't know if I could talk
Hmm.
about this, but whatever the case might
Absolutely.
be.
It's interesting to look back on the different pivotal moments that impacted my life. And when I was 15 is when I had my first sexual experience, and it was not consensual. It was non-consensual, and it was with a family friend, someone that I felt that I could trust, someone that that I had been attracted to for many, many years. And when that occurred, I really, I think that was when I really felt a divide and a conflict, an internal conflict, um, and not wanting to share this experience. I did not wish to share what had happened with my family. I was embarrassed, and it's an interesting thing to look back on now, to feel how much it suffocated my personality, how much it stifled my growth, and how much it affected future relationships. So I do have pieces that reflect on that. And as I went through life on my journey, that was the baggage that I carried. And that baggage created more baggage and more baggage and more. And I did not have positive ways of communication. I did not have a voice. I did not, in a sense, I can say the way I looked at myself was weak, but I feel like it was more so lack of knowledge and genuine fear. I really, really feared what the perception of others would be if I spoke out. And that is unfortunate. And that is something that needs to be remedied. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed. That as victims of certain instances, that we feel scared to ask for help, that we fear that
Wow.
judgment. And so many of my pieces throughout my life, it's not just that, but there was a time that yes, I was in, a mental, health facility for a period of time, because I was not in a good space. I have attempted, made an attempt on my life, and thankfully I successfully failed at it. I do believe that that was a spiritual intervention, and that was also life changing for me. Um, so there's so many things that I write about on my page. I'm pretty free at this point, and I'm very blessed and lucky to be in a position in my life to where the family allows me to have that freedom. I can say that in the past, I would not have had
Amen.
that freedom. I would have not have had that support. It's just in the past, 4 to 5 years that I've really been able to have that comfortability to share all these parts of my story that, yes, do include family members. Yep, I write about them. Yeah, I sure do. And but they accept that. And I think it's not just, my own growth, but luckily I've been very blessed for family members to also grow and want to improve and want to change and to better themselves. Not everyone gets that, not everyone gets that opportunity, but I have been able to have that. And so all of my, even my erotica pieces, that goes into more of, more of just like fantasy and just being more free, free and not suppressing, sexuality because it surrounds us. I mean, it's not like we can deny the fact that we live in a very, very sexual world. So,
Yes.
it's all around us. So my page definitely encompasses my mind, my past stories, and I even have a couple pieces on my page because my mother went through some very traumatic, horrific upbringing, and it's something that she is not able to talk about. She is not able to share. It's very difficult for her, and she allows me to be her voice for her. That's a massive, incredible blessing. She's had massive growth just in
Wow.
allowing me to be her voice for her. So there's been so many positives, but yeah, my page definitely represents all of that. My growth, my traumas, my fears, um, my fantasies, my desires. It's all there. I mean, it's definitely me on a page.
No, and that's no, again, that's beautiful because it just shows the real you and the fact that you're willing, where you're not afraid
Mm.
to be yourself, and that's such an inspiring thing. Would you like to read at least a piece?
Sure, sure. Let's see. Ooh, what should we read? What should we read?
Yeah. What
Tis the question. Tis the question. Um, maybe I'll read Chaos of Ash just simply because that was a spoken that I did that um, when I speak about my attempt on my life that I successfully failed at. There was a moment there was a definitely a moment, a realization within that time where fate, what have you, gods intervened, angels surrounded me, what, however you would like to perceive it. um, I made a choice, and that choice, basically, I was told, in this epiphany, in this moment, that I'm sorry, but your choice is not going to be to be granted, thankfully. And that was a massive turning point in my life. That was when I started to
wow.
realize that there were some changes that needed to be made, and that I really needed to start looking inwardly and stop accepting the abuse that I had allowed myself to endure. And it was the day that my strength rooted itself. And so this
Wow.
is Chaos of Ash. Blades of green stood untouched, with affection of dew shimmering against the off-putting of heated warmth as it freshly kissed the dawn. Petals expanded in glorious exaltation to receive the hope that grains fill within the hourglass of time, with an inclining of an auspicious start. Stars out of reach, out of touch, sharing space in the innards of obsidian firmament, gasping for their own exuberance to be seen as they screamed for attention and the soft hues of pink transitioning to purple and soon to blue. As stars began to take their leave upon morning's cue, and I didn't understand. As my blackened eyes fluttered as they fought against crusted ducks, for it was foretold in the predetermined actions of a 750 milliliter bottle of liquid courage, dissolving the sweet treats of disassociation held in the measured vials of prescribed delicacies, to stifle the screeches and cries towards a heaven that was mute, deaf among the clouds, for I had sealed the fate of Viscera's organ. And as hazel pupils began to dilate and set focus on the actuality of the night's transgressions, of what had truly been endured, I found a minuscule of doubt clutched into my cerebral cortex crack of questioning, and I didn't understand. For I had failed at life. I was a fallacy, decorated in blonde and naive intellect. It made sense to my broken brain how I was never enough, that I was the definition of a wasted space, and the only place I felt settled and comfortable in was when I absorbed each word of attack, ever lashing, to validate my non-value and the ceaseless tears of sorrowed affirmations, for this was home. Juilliard lawyer, big city financial stability, independent, strong, a woman. These were expectations known as I sat on display for family intrigue, encompassed with fascination and enthralled reactions. Yet with each passing interaction, I falter. Fear of failure clutching chest as rest dissipates, so I please, whether it be on my knees or to set their nerves at ease. Realization that I am on my own and displaying an array which replicated coverings of a clone, a vestibular representation of what is desired in a realm of unknowns, a squeaking parrot, a dancing monkey. My essence exacerbated while I sit in a pool of calcified salted serum in a casing of melancholic horror. You validated the fissures that had cracked in my brain for me to say that it was you and you alone that brought me to the point of desperation without wanting or need of resuscitation would be a fallacy to the very core of my turmoil. For time had proffered patience. It was given in seconds of laughter, minutes of doubt, hours of self-deprecating rants, days of regret, and years of irresolution lost within the attempt of vitality of my so-called existence. The pain and suffering that bone and muscle had endured, the demons of devastation, the false witness of lies, the tripping over my own growth and scraping the confidence of my true self, bruising the flesh of temptation and allowing the burgundy streams to run free. Those were of my own reconciliation to the mask of disguise of the grotesque innards that push, tear, and pull at the meager tendons that saved face for the outer world. And the decision was my own, the one single entity that I felt could be contained within the gentle pressing of fingertips, for I was in control. And so I placed myself under polyester cotton, carefully folding top sheet over blackened comforter and closed sticky lashed webbing, allowing intoxication and my drug-induced haven to saturate veins and course through, spreading like a virus, tunneling through ventricles until poison had spread to every toenail, thumbprint, and earlobe, absorbed within with no need for an exit, for it had been consumed. And now all I needed to do was close my eyes and wait to be exhumed. There were no letters to be read, no tears to be held, heard, or sorrowful words of sorries or should haves to dread, and the long list of regret too tiresome to be said. The decision was resolute, no question, just simple certainty. I had not wavered as the tincture of spirits passed beyond lips, meeting medications in the acidic depths where they swam and swirled into their final dissolution. I had resolved my psyche to my personal, judged conclusion. For how could anyone ever dispute? Haven't you been listening? Haven't I provided you with such proof? I'm not worthy of grace, a mother's disgrace, and I thought I could understand. But as I lay back, with my back flattened, and my spine concave within memory foam support, I, in my entombed encase, drifting to an ending unknown and alone, just as I had so often foretold. Yet there in the glimmering of my closing culmination, I saw light. And luminescence claimed these sockets of sight. It was beautiful. It was precious. It was serene and majestically bright. I could feel a peace, a subtlety, unfamiliar presence that breathed energy, that oozed calm, and there was no mandible and colloquial motion, just thought and expression, and I could not hold back my emotion. I was a stream that bursted through the brook water and stone, freeing the flood of fear and failure, with my guttural cry a simple token of my strife, for I could bear no more. And then a touch, or rather a whisper, or maybe just a lick of the crisp midnight air, but I did not care. The rhythm and trill of the flowing harmony of love, of pride, of pure forgiveness, and I broke. It was though I had become the sun itself, for I was enswathed within the tepidness of the blanket of absolution, as every nerve was lit with conflagrant cognizance, awake in their heightened perception, and every vein pumped a burning quintessence of new life. And as I found myself on my knees, I felt a moment, and it was clear, and it was offered, and it was mine for the taking. A new beginning for me? And I didn't understand. As an intimate echo sauntered among the breeze, a zephyr of mystery embodied with unadulterated perpetual reverence, given to me in spite of all malfaction's deference, an Arcadian warble that soothed every wound as the chorus of chords harmonized within the wind and uttered, "Now is your time to be seen. Rise, my beauteous queen. Fear not, for your future is not how you've foreseen. It is time for the fires to burn, my incarnate Mary Magdalene. Wake, wake now, arise, and let your colors sheen." So my blackened eyes fluttered as they fought against the crested ducks, and I understood. And as the rays of the celestial sky pierced through glassed window pane, I rose. And that is Chaos of Ash.
Wow. Wow. I'm like, wow. Wow.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
I'm trying to digest everything. Like, oh my God.
Absolutely. There's
Wow.
a journey and
And
an awakening. And yeah, it was the time, it was a very pivotal moment in my life, and it changed everything.
wow. And I love because you could have just said, this is what happened, this is
Mm.
how it made me feel, and I'm never gonna go through this again. But no, you were very descriptive, and that's what I love about your pieces. Like you're so descriptive, you're so detailed, but in such a profound descriptive way that it's like, wow, like you can't miss anything when it comes
Thank
to your
you.
pieces. I love that about you. And
Thank you
just,
so
oh my God.
much. Thank
Wow.
you.
Wow. Robin, thank you so much for sharing that piece,
Absolutely.
trusting me enough to talk about these things and to, just to even read that piece to me on this episode.
I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for yes, yes, and thank you for just
Mm,
being you. For just being that inspiration to others that didn't feel like they could have the courage to talk about your subjects, and that for those who's going through the same thing, it's like,
mm,
damn,
mm,
wow, like what I'm saying.
absolutely.
And thank you so much for that. And yeah, thank you for just being
Thank
just being
you.
you, and it's such beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful stuff. So as you know, it's already close to
It
the
is,
end.
it is.
Book
Well, I
close.
appreciate so much this opportunity for
Uh,
me to be able to come on here, to be able to, just be able to chat with you. I mean, it was just an amazing time, and I thank you so
yes.
much. Thank you for so much. I mean, I'm
No, I
super
thank
proud of you,
you.
man.
I
This is
thank you.
awesome.
Thank you so much. And I will say this, and it's people like yourself that again keeps me going, that keeps me inspired to do more, to tell more stories. Yeah, like I haven't really been posting pieces like that because I guess I'm just more focused on the podcast aspect of life things
Absolutely.
right
Yeah.
now. But it's just like, oh, just you have been such a blessing in
Thank
my life,
you.
and again, I thank God because it's people like you that I feel like people this world needs more people like you to just be you, and thank you so much for that.
Thank
So
you
with
so
that being
much.
said, um, any any final thoughts, anything you're working on that you wanna present to anyone before
I'm
we
just going to
close?
continue to work on my writing, continue to grow, continue to push myself to get out of that comfort zone. Um, you know, I mean, we're not growing if it doesn't, if it feels so. I guess if I'm a little uncomfortable, then maybe I'm on the right path. But I just appreciate everyone who has pushed me, who has supported me. It's been amazing that the people that I have met and encountered along the way that just have really given me that platform and the space to be able to, you know, to be able to express and be vulnerable. And, I mean, it is scary. I encourage anyone that, know that we are all here and we all completely understand and grasp how difficult of a journey it is and how scary it is to be a writer and to put ourselves and present our words out there for the world to either take or reject. And, but, you know, it has to be out there. We need to get it out there. We need to be able to accept ourselves, and that is what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
I'm just trying to further accept myself and who I am as a woman, as a mother, all of those things, and just trying to be a better me each and every day. So I thank everyone for helping me try to accomplish that. Mhm.
Amen. Amen. So, Robin, thank you so much for doing
Absolutely.
this
Thank
episode
you.
with me.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
All of
children, or people of all ages.
it. No,
Yeah,
all good.
I
All
just so
good.
screwed up. But thank you for joining us with this
Absolutely.
episode
I think 7,
6. Did I say 6 or 7?
which
Seven
is
or
great.
6?
I
I
think it's
forget.
number 7,
Oh
which is
God,
awesome
I'm
because
bugging
it
out
is my
here. I
favorite
mean,
number. So that would be pretty amazing.
yes, awesome. Oh God, but regardless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening, tuning in to this episode.
Absolutely.
May the Lord
All
bless you
right.
and each and every
Thank
one of you.
you.
All right, peace.